Hello everyone, this is Antens, and today, due to getting at least a number of requests for this in various different places, I will be doing a quick, talk about the Infernal Shade Lich, and more importantly, what are the differences between 1.1 and 1.2, why it will be probably a really strong build. Earlier in my last guide, I talked about it being the best Lich build in the game in 1.1. Um, and I'm not sure if that's going to hold true anymore because damage might become more important. So if you didn't know, one of the reasons why it was a really strong build in 1.1 was due to the clear. And when I say this, I am comparing it to Stygian Lich Coal, because that's really the only comparison we have. Stygian Lich Coal, for example, is almost has to go poison, as far as I know, and I can be wrong about this, but I've seen people going poison just to have the poison prolif so they can get some more AoE and better clear, because it's pure single target otherwise. Um, so that's the edge that this build had over it, and I'm pretty sure we still will have that edge next season. Yeah, however, a lot will come down to how much single target is required for a build. Um, and that benchmark, that threshold, is going to differ depending on what kind of content you want to do. I'm pretty sure that 99.9999% of people won't need to kill Uber Aberov to have a great time in this game. I am not CT, so I don't actually know about the Uber Aberov fight. There have been rumors going around that it's really difficult. So we'll see if this can do it or not. Um, but yeah, so there's still merit to this build, because for one thing we get to go ultra move speed with Wrong Warp and the Blood of the Exile, because if you don't know, Wrong Warp gives you Chrono Warp after you transplant, which is 35% cast speed and move speed, which is super strong. And we can also get pretty much perma haste with this build. So we'll be fast, we'll be doing huge amounts of AoE and stuff like that. So that's really the upside to this build that and I think it's going to have merit in 1.2, that we have a build that isn't as focused on single target as Stygian Coal and instead focuses on clear and move speed and all that. But we'll have to wait and see. We don't know. Um, so anyway, what are the changes about this build? How does it work? I guess we'll start with talking a bit about how it actually works. Now, due to the servers being down, I can't actually show you gameplay, because I've never played offline, so I don't have any character. Um, so let's talk about it. So the main interaction that is being used is the zombie plus infernal shade, right? This is an interaction that can be done on every single acolyte spec, and I've tried them all. Um, but Lich to me feels the best. On the other masteries, or at least on Warlock, you are pretty incentivized to go ailment instead of crit, because you don't have that much crit support. And on Necromancer, you can actually do some really funky shit with Ghostmaker, uh, by, for example, spawning tons of wraiths, which would, with this dagger, um, give you more Infernal Shade damage per active wraith against bosses and rare enemies. I know that we can get about, on bosses, we can get like 5. So that's more than 3 times the damage, right? But it doesn't really feel that good, and you are locked into a pretty awkward skill rotation. So I think Lich is the best for this. I suggest you guys play around, just try it on different things. Maybe you'll find something that I didn't find. But yeah. So the main skill interaction, back to it, is Volatile Zombie and the Infernal Shade. So how this works is that we spawn zombies, we have put it on a cooldown, and we have to put it on a cooldown in order for it to spawn these maggots, or corpse parasites I guess they're called actually, but I'll say maggots, which then serves as our ammo. Let's just, that is the euphemism, or that I will use, it's our ammo, right? And we can only use Infernal Shade when we have ammo up. And so a lot of this build tends to revolve getting as much ammo, reliable ammo as possible. With Infernal Shade, we just self-cast it on Volatile Zombies, on Maggots, on Skeleton Vanguards, on whatever minion we have. And due to the fact that we aren't scaling any sort of minion health, they will pretty much instantly die, because they don't have any health. And when they die, the shade will pop, and the pop will do damage. So funnily enough, this actually did quite a lot of damage last season. It wasn't top tier last season in single target, as I talked about, but now we have double the damage, added damage effectiveness, and that's a lot, right? That's a huge buff. And I'll talk a bit more later on how we will try, or how we could take advantage of this even more. But that's how it works. With Legion, we are casting 3 shades at once. So this is a 300% or a 200% more damage, but a 3 times multiplier, right? So it's a super strong node for us. It makes bossing a lot easier because we're doing 3 times the damage, right? So it's super nice. We also have a lot of generic more damage multipliers, 1.8, 1.9, 2, 1.24. This together is like 1.4 combined. So we have a lot of more damage on the skill, and that's why it did damage already, right? The thing that was holding it back in terms of damage was the added damage effectiveness, right? If we compare this to something like Erasing Strike that had in 1.1, I think it had like 500 damage effectiveness, or Meteor that has 600, or whatever. The added damage effectiveness was really low. It was only 100. So getting this buff is massive for us. That being said, it wasn't like we were doing low amounts of damage if we compare it to other builds. It's just that if we compare it to like the top of the line single target, we were doing a lot less damage. Other things to talk about, if you played Lich before, you know that we always go reperform. It gives you a second life, it gives you a lot of great buffs while you're in it. Lots of move speed, which interacts with our wrong warp. Crit chance, crit multi, some flat. This node is really nice for movement, but you don't actually need this because we're playing wrong warp, so we have so much move speed. So a more optimized thing to do would be to put another point into armor per point of intelligence, and either crit chance and increase damage if you need it, or more move speed. You can do as you see fit. You can also grab 2 more flat, which is good with the new added damage effectiveness. You could do more increased damage. So yeah, we could do this to just not have to care about poison res. I like capping poison res anyway, because sometimes you get popped out of reperform. You get some nasty combo on you, and you have to play around. sometimes you will have to play in human form, and I think that's one of the biggest skill checks with Lich in general, is to use Reaper form to your benefit as a second life. That you can, for one thing, you can go a lot faster because you can be a bit more reckless, I guess, because you have that second life. So when you do get popped into human form again, you still don't really want to slow down, and hopefully you will be tanky enough, but you will have to play a lot more carefully than in Reaper form. So that's why I don't suggest taking this node, because you want to be tanky in human form as well, if it's possible. Secondly, and this tree is probably going to change a lot, so don't take this as truth, is Death Seal. Death Seal is a giant multiplier for our damage. Um, if you played any MMORPGs, you might know like DPS cooldowns. This is our DPS cooldown. Um, and this gives us more damage equal to percent missing health. And due to the fact that we have this, we are reduced to 33%, so we always get 67% more damage. However, while we're in Death Seal, we also take less damage equal to half our percent missing, so that would be 33.5% less damage taken as well. Huge. I usually feel more tanky with Death Seal on uh, compared to Death Seal off, even though that's not necessarily, but that is, yeah. So you become very tanky in Death Seal. One of the reasons is its inherent defenses, and one of the reasons is because we go down to our endurance threshold, almost. So as you can see, the base endurance threshold is 20% of max life, and we will go down to 33%. Optimally, we would find a way to cover the last 13% with endurance threshold, and usually you would have done this by combining something akin to Revenant Plate, where you gain 6% extra as maximum health, and you could use or have used something like Seed of Yggdrasil, where you can get up to 8 maximum health as endurance threshold, which would then cover your entire health bar while in Death Seal with endurance threshold, which lets you take 60% less damage. Now, I haven't found a really good way of doing that. There are surely lots of ways to do that, but for now, I'm leaving it for a bit and we'll see what happens. So yeah, that's Death Seal. Lastly, Transplant is just a generically good skill. It gives us another minion, and as we remember, minions are ammo. Also friends, I think I've heard. But most importantly, they're ammo. So it gives us another minion that we can pop. It gives us bone armor. It's very strong. Survivability wise. We can also make it fear everything around us. So we have fear on departure and fear on arrival. This is such a sleeper node. These nodes are so good. Um, it's just insane how good these nodes are during mapping. When you're bossing, due to the fact that you're a wrong warp, you will use it quite fast, so you won't really time it. But during mapping, these are so clutch. They are great. Something else you can get, kill threshold. I like getting bone curse because it's just a curse and it's a little bit more damage and stuff. Um, but yeah, you can play around with it. You can do some rip bloods and stuff. Um, yeah. Anyway, let's get to gearing. Um, so that's how we play it more or less. Use zombies as ammo. We are in Reaper form, super speedy. Use Death Seal as a cooldown ability to do more damage. Yeah. Now when it comes to gearing, there are so many things that has changed for us, even if it doesn't seem like it on the planner. We'll talk about the big one first, and that is the Mantle of the Pale Ox. This is by far the strongest item they've released in 1.2, in my opinion at least. The stats on this thing is disgusting. It's just absolutely disgusting. Even if we didn't have the 24% of damage redirected to minion, which for us would just be a straight up, or for everyone who uses this, it's just a straight up 24% damage reduction, right? Because it's 24% of damage that you don't take. So anyway, the other stats on this is also incredibly strong. 20 to 32% increased health for you and your minions, up to 10% move speed, and 16 strength. And if you can use it, up to 2 level of minion strength skill, which is also insanely strong. Now we can't use that last bit, but the rest of this item is just crazy. The biggest downside to this item is the very low amount of armor it gives. So in this case, I'm pretty sure that we will be trying to get armor on this, and there's a way to do it that feels pretty good, and that's to get the reduced bonus damage taken from critical strikes, and which also gives you some flat armor. How you could get that affix on other places, you could put it on your helm, or you could put it on your boots or whatever. But we want this affix somewhere at least, not only for the armor, but also for the reduced bonus damage taken from critical strikes. So you'll play around with this, you'll see what feels nice. Remember, in Last Epoch, armor is incredibly strong. It's super strong. Because not only does it reduce physical damage, it also reduces elemental damage taken at a reduced effectiveness of the value. So everyone wants armor, right? If you're making a build in Lost Epoch and you don't have armor because you're thinking, well, I'm a mage or a sorcerer, I shouldn't have armor. That's not it. Always get as much armor as you can. For a health-based build, health and armor are your primary defense layers, and then there are more things that you can add on to it, like block or endurance threshold or yada yada. But the primary ways of keeping you alive is always armor and health on a health-based build. So yeah, this item super strong. Highly recommend that no matter what build you're gonna do, try to find a way to fit Mantle of the Pale Ox. Now, I'm not gonna... I feel like I need to talk about this. I'm not encouraging you guys to do what I'm about to talk about. But if you want to play efficiently, and I'm not going to do this on any build, but if you want to, and you want to play efficiently, and you want to get the best bang of your buck, you can snapshot minions with this, even if you're not a minion build. So you would equip items made with the intention of making a minion extremely tanky. You would summon that with those items, and then you would change back into your normal gear. There are some limitations on this. I'm not a snapshotting expert, and I never will be, because I don't think it should be in the game, but it is in the game. So if you want to use it, I'm not going to like judge you. If anyone does, they're stupid. It's part of the game now, at least until next season, where I think they will remove it with the Acolyte rework, but we'll have to wait and see. So, for example, one thing you could do is that you could snapshot a Bone Golem on Necromancer. On Primalist you can snapshot a bear. Yada yada. Oh boy, I rambled a lot about this item. Anyway, next up, an old item that I've used a lot, and you will, if you're playing Acolyte and you're playing Warlock or Lich, you will be looking at this item a lot because it is just inherently a very strong item, and that is Immolator's Oblation. It gives you some flat damage, it gives you Frenzy, and it gives you a Cleanse. And people sleep on the Cleanse sometimes, but it's almost always you want to have a Cleanse in your belt anyway. So it's like it has one extra LP by default, right? So if you get a 3 LP Immolators, it's almost like you had a 4 LP. Kind of. Not really, but kind of. Um, Once again, we can see the weakness of this. It doesn't have armor. But instead it has all these juicy things that we like. And the flat here is very much synergistic with the buff that we're getting, which increases the added damage effectiveness. So we get to take advantage of that a bit more. But there's something else new coming, and a lot of you have probably already noticed it. We now have a bee affix. Last patch, we had a zombie affix on belt. And in reality, that zombie affix was really strong for this build, because it summoned you a bunch of zombies, which spawned a bunch of infernal shades, and the zombies then had a chance to be revived with the cycle of putrescence. So it was super strong. I didn't use it because once again, something that I didn't think should have been in the game from the start. Therefore, I didn't use it. But it was incredibly strong. And now it's gone, and I'm releasing this video after it's gone, so sad times for all, I guess. But instead, we got a new one, a new experimental affix, and that is bees summoned on potion use. Now, this is a cool one. So every time we drink a potion, we get 4 bees. Why is this good for us? Well, first of all, we've talked about this. Minions are ammo, also friends, but most importantly, they are ammo. And secondly, we have 30% chance to cast Volatile Zombie on minion death. So every potion is somewhere around 1.3 zombies on average. Right? Yeah. Something around that. 1 and 1/3 zombie, you could say. And that in itself isn't that impressive, right? It's not like, wow, we get 1 more zombie on potion use. Well, it kind of feeds into itself due to cycle of putrescence. Because the more zombies you have, the math is pretty clear on this, you have a chance to get more zombies. So the more zombies you have a chance to keep more zombies. So more zombies would have been resurrected than if you had less. So that's why this affix is really strong. Also, bees are going to help us make Mantle of the Palox even more consistent. There's never a time where we won't have at least 1 minion up. Other than things like Aberoth Slam, if you know the big slam, he takes his hammer? What weapon does... I think Aberoth has a hammer. I played that fight like, I don't know, 500 times, 600 times. I should know this. Anyway, he slams the ground and a big area of void spreads out and it kills everything it touches. That something like that will kill our minions, but if we know about it, we can simply just start with our damage. When it does the slam, we run away, and when it's ended, we just drink 1 potion, summon zombies, and we're off to the races again. So really cool affix. I think it's going to be good. I'm not sure. I'm not CT. Maybe they are too unreliable. We'll have to wait and see. Other cool things. Due to the fact that we can get reduced bonus damage taken from critical strikes on this, keep in mind, I'm showing you this with 2 T7s Weaver's Will. This will never ever happen, okay? You will never find a Weaver's Weaver's Will, Weaver's Touch, whatever it's called. You will never find one with 14 Weaver, right? But you might find one with 13 or 14. No, what? 7 or 8. I mean. And so we can get quite a lot of reduced bonus damage taken from critical strikes here. And although the crit multi is very nice on this, the reduced bonus damage taken from critical strikes actually gives us an opportunity to change out our boots. Earlier we were running with the Citadel boots for the reduced bonus damage taken and armor. Now, due to this, we can actually change our boots, and so far what I think we will run is a pair of Blood of the Exiles. There are two reasons for this. One is due to the fact that we now get a we will always hit the slam. What's it called? Anyway, we have a deterministic system to slam. That's the word. So we will always get the T7 move speed on this, and due to the fact that it already rolls with up to 40% move speed, it's ultra synergistic with Wrong Warp that gives us spell damage per increased move speed. So like this gives us 350 move speed, right? Or 450 move speed, I mean. So it's super synergistic, super strong. It also gives us strength, dexterity, and intelligence. Intelligence is just more increased damage. Remember, for every intelligence we have 4% increased damage on Infernal Shade. And strength just gives us a lot of increased armor. And that's why we have this much. It's not that much actually. For this build it's a lot though, because it's hard to fit armor. Lastly, you will probably never get this relic. Let's get that out of the way. You will probably never get this relic. You will probably, if you're in Merchant Guild, you might get this. Most people who play COF will never be able to attain this because you will never be able to kill Uber Aberoth. Now, if you feel bad about that, just remember Uber Aberoth is something that is not meant for everyone to kill. And if you really want to kill him, there will very likely be some meta builds, meta boss builds that would slaughter him. I'm 100% sure it always happens in every game. There will be some way to just murder him, to massacre him. This is not the build for it, but there will be other builds. So you could, for example, use this build as your mapper to farm favor, to farm items, and parallel to progressing this, you could gear out another side character which you think will be suited to kill Aberoth. It's a little bit more like PoE 1 in that way, where you will have more distinctive mappers and bossers now, which I think is good. I think it's a good change. The problem with that is if you're playing COF, I used to be I'm very much inclined to play Merchant's Guild a lot, especially during season start. And it's not because I necessarily think that it's stronger, because I think that if you play a lot of hours on one single character, your ceiling is higher with COF. But yeah, anyway, I'm rambling again. So most of you will not kill him. So instead of this, what you could do is that you could actually use a Twisted Heart. And Twisted Heart is something you can farm with 2 LP. So something like this. Now a lot of you people might say, well, that's just stupid. We're a Lich, we can't have ward, why would we use this? Well, we can use it as a stat stick really. We get even more strength, which gives us more armor. And we also get cast speed and we get a lot of increased health. So that's really it. Another thing you could do if you want more damage, which would synergize very heavily with the buffs is use a grimoire of necrotic elixirs, which gives us 40 flat damage, 40 added damage. It's probably gonna be really good. This is something you can pretty easily get with 4 LP, so you can get a perfect one. If you do this, you can also solve a lot of resistances and free up other affix slots. So it's a very good option. We'll have to wait and see what happens. But yeah, so don't expect to get this, but keep in mind that if you do get this, it's ultra strong. Up to 5 flat critical strike chance and up to 100% effect of Frenzy, which is 20% cast speed, because Frenzy gives you 20% cast speed. And we have perma haste and +1 to level of all skills. And as we know, one of the biggest multipliers in terms of affixes for Infernal Shade is +2 levels, because we have so much more damage that we can get in the tree. Cycle Putrescence, we want to cycle zombies. Once again, minions are ammo, also friends, but most importantly ammo. So these resurrect your zombies, and these will be quite good, just to make it more consistent. And then lastly, we have to use Lich's Envy for this version, because otherwise we cannot sustain the mana cost of Infernal Shade, because as we've talked about in a previous video, Legion gives you a hefty mana cost. So to sustain this, we need the Lich's Envy. Something cool they've added though, which we will also be taking advantage of, is the Lich's set. And the only reason why we would be sealing a tier 1 on our catalyst is for the 2 set bonus, which is +4 maximum shades. What this actually does in reality is make it more consistent on single target, that you will get every cast of shade out, due to the fact that you're casting 3 at a time and your zombies is casting 1 when they die. Sometimes on 1.1 in the last patch, you've capped your shades, and which means you're missing out on new shades. This solves it, so it becomes more consistent. I've tested it out, and although it's really hard to tell, it should be about 10% more damage on single target. But we'll have to wait and see. If you like doing labbing and stuff, you can go in and test the difference between having the set bonus and not. But it gives a bit more damage, and we can seal it, so it doesn't really matter. The sad part about this is that the set effects in and of itself is just garbage for us. It literally does nothing. And another sad thing, which I kind of knew, but I'm still sad about it. The set bonus affix, the actual affix that you could have put on your gloves, isn't the reduced mana. It's spellfire damage per active dread shade and increased area per active dread shade. I'm so sad about this. I don't know who will use this. Maybe there are some interactions that can abuse this, but this just seems so bad. So very bad. So yeah. Anyway, I have rambled on and on for a long time. If you have questions, you can put them in the comments. I'll try to answer them as best as I can, but keep in mind we haven't tested the 1.2 patch, so we don't know anything really, or I don't know anything. So we'll have to wait and see. I am 100% sure that this build will be strong, but if you aim to kill Uber Aberoth, if that's your goal, then I would suggest going Stygian Lich. But if you just want to speed clear, then this is the build for you. So, see you around.